All right, Chapter 7, quick notes, the gold notes. Remember, this is wrapping up all of our chapter very quickly and giving you one quick note sheet so you can check formulas or check the big ideas. Okay, so in 7.1, we talked about Pythagorean Theorem. A squared plus b squared equals c squared. So remember, c is always the hypotenuse, and it's always the longest side. So always across from the right angle, that hypotenuse. The altitude of an isosceles triangle always divides the base exactly in half, forming a right triangle with the altitude as one of the triangle's legs. Okay, so if you remember that, we have an isosceles triangle. When we drop this, don't forget it divides the base into two, but it makes the altitude here part of this right triangle over here, and it's one of the legs of that right triangle. All right. Common Pythagorean triples. You do not need these memorized, but hey, it's good to have it on a quick note sheet, right? We have the 3, 4, 5 triangle. We have the 5, 12, 13 triangle. We have the 8, 15, 17 triangle. We have the 7, 24, 25 triangle. And those are the 4 that our book kind of focused on a lot. And remember, you can take like the 3, 4, 5 and you can triple it. So you could make the 9, 12, 15. You could take it times 10, the 30, 40, 50, right? So you can always find new triples off of these by multiplying them all by the same number. All right, that was 7.1. Key thing, remember a squared plus b squared equals c squared. 7.2 is the converse. It says, wait, maybe not everything's a right triangle. Always check first to see if the sides do form a triangle. So we're going to add the two small, and it needs to be bigger than the big. When you add the two small, it needs to be bigger than the big. It cannot equal the big. It has to be bigger than the big. Okay, if a squared plus c squared, a squared plus b squared equals c squared, we have a right triangle. If a squared plus b squared is greater than c squared or more, always look at the c squared. If c squared is smaller than the rest, it's acute. When you get a squared plus b squared is less than c squared, the c squared is bigger than the rest, it's obtuse. Okay, it's always about the c squared, and that's the easiest way to remember it. All right, don't forget that 7.3 section. This is the one kind of dreaded section for us. Sometimes we have to do this. Don't forget, you can have, when we split these up, right, my altitude, remember I have a small triangle, I have a medium triangle, and I have the big triangle. Remember that, right? And I have a short leg and a long leg and a hypotenuse, and a short leg and a long leg and a hypotenuse, and a short leg and a long leg and a hypotenuse, okay? So for my small, medium, big. So remember, how many can I use at once? 2, right? So 2 triangles and 2 sides. You have to just choose which side you do, okay? I have in print here, split hypotenuse over altitude equals altitude over split hypotenuse. It's the same thing as short leg, long leg on small and medium, okay? And then I have whole hypotenuse over leg equals leg over adjacent split part of the hypotenuse. But again, if you're doing well on the short, small, medium, bigs and stuff, you're going to be fine. Okay. Special right triangles. 2 of them, the 45, 45, 90. Remember your sides are x, x, and x radical 2. And then you have the 30, 60, 90. Remember that the 30 is across from the smallest side, x. I double it for the hypotenuse and take it times radical 3 across from the 60. Okay? So we have to memorize those patterns. You got to know them. Okay? Don't forget that if you happen to have a square where all the sides are equal, okay, and you put a diagonal there, you form a 45, 45, 90 triangle. So you'll have sides of x, x, and the diagonal is the x radical 2. 30, 60, 90. If you have an equilateral triangle, remember, equilateral triangle, you end up with angles of 60 and 60. When you drop that altitude straight down, it divides that base into 2, changes that top angle from 60 into 30 and 30. And you end up with the short side across from the 30, the doubled side across from the 90, and the x radical 3 will be the altitude there, okay? So think about your special triangles. All right, back page, okay? We're really looking at the top. The bottom is something new that we're going to do later, okay? I'm just going to warn you there. Okay, I combined here all of 7.5, 7.5, 7.6, and 7.7 together because all of this deals with SOHCAHTOA. They just kind of gave it to us in smaller pieces, okay? So remember, SO is sine of the angle equals opposite over hypotenuse, right? Right there. Cos Ka is cosine of an angle equals adjacent over hypotenuse. TOA, tangent of an angle equals opposite over adjacent, okay? So remember on your right triangle, if I have a right triangle, my hypotenuse is always, always, always my hypotenuse. It never changes. But you have to go to the angle to find its opposite and to find its adjacent. And those two can change depending on the angle. The hypotenuse never changes. So if an angle and a side are known and you're looking for other sides, we just use SOHCAHTOA just like that. If you're looking for an angle, that's when you use the inverse, okay? Only use the inverse if you're looking for an angle. And then the extra on the bottom, law of sines and cosines, we're going to do after we take the Chapter 7 test, but I put them on this gold sheet so they were somewhere for you. And so if I tell you to grab your gold sheet, you'll know where it is so you can find it. But that's really Chapter 7. That's what you need to know for the test, okay? Keep this gold sheet handy, and it will help you as you prepare for this Chapter 7 test.